Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to study, reflect on Surah Al-Nahl, verses 91 and 92, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أنبياء الله جميعا وعلى سيدهم وخاتمهم حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين سيما إمامنا وقائدنا وسيدنا ومنقذنا الإمام المهدي المنتظر عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل مخرجه. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون ولا تكونوا كالتي نقضت غزلها من بعد قوة أنكاثا تتخذون أيمانكم دخلا بينكم أن تكون أمة هي أربى من أمة إنما يبلوكم الله به وليبينن لكم يوم القيامة ما كنتم فيه تختلفون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. It's about fulfilling your covenant and your promise that you make with God and with others. God says, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا عَاهَدتُّمْ. Fulfill the covenant of God when you have pledged it, when you vowed, when you pledged a covenant with God, you must remain true to it. Don't break the oath. وَلَا تَنْقُضُ الْأَيْمَانِ. Ayman means oath. How many times we make an oath a day? How many times people say Wallah al-Azim? The Iranians say Hazrat Abbas Qasam. The Iraqis always say Wallah al-Azim. The Lebanese says Wal Imam Ali. How many times we make these oaths a day and then we break them? Very easy, very easy to break your oath. Very easy. God says do not. وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانِ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. When you affirm your oath, when you give a promise and you make God, what is the meaning of the oath? Making God as a witness upon this contract, this promise, this covenant, this pact. Making God as a witness. So do not break it. وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. After solemnly affirming them. وَقَدْ جَعَلْتُمُ اللَّهَ عَلَيْكُمْ كَفِيلًا. You are putting God as a witness. And then after that you break your oath. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمْ. Indeed, verily, surely God knows what you are doing. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. When we come into this life, my friends, we enter into many contracts and covenants. First with God. We make a covenant that we worship Him and nothing but Him. We make a promise that we obey His instructions and His commands. We practice religion. Things that He says are mandatory and compulsory, we follow them. Things that He said they are forbidden, don't get close to them, we stay away from them. We don't practice them. He says, I want you to follow this path. I want you to follow Prophet Muhammad. I want you to follow my holy book, the revelation after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I want you to follow Imam Ali alayhi salam. those who have been designated and appointed by God, not by the Prophet. The Prophet was only a messenger. God says to the Prophet on the day of Ghadir, you just deliver. He was worried. The Prophet was worried about his community. He knows his community very well. He lived among them for over 60 years. He knows they're going to say, look. He put his cousin as his successor. So he's practicing favoritism and nepotism. So the Prophet was hesitant. This is in Sunni references, huh? The Prophet was a bit hesitant. Ibn Abbas says, Abdullah ibn Abbas, the great scholar, the cousin of the Prophet, he says the Prophet was a bit hesitant. That people are going to say, this is nepotism. His cousin is succeeding him. God said to him, don't worry, you deliver. You deliver. And I'm going to defend you. I'm going to protect you. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ, and if you don't deliver this, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ, you have done nothing for us. You did not fulfill your mission. So God is asking us, this is the path and those are the people. God does not put us in disarray, in confusion. God does not create confusion. God shows us the path, very clear. If we use intelligence, aql, two things, using brain, aql, reason, and the revelation, we find the way. We don't get lost. But why people get lost then? Why the majority? God says, وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ كَارِهُونَ. The majority of mankind, they refuse the truth. Why? Because they love bigotry. They love racism. They love bias. This is why they don't follow the truth. Otherwise, if they are not biased, if they follow what God says, nobody is going to go into other directions. So we enter into covenant with God, number one. Number two, covenant and contract and pacts with people around us. A husband and wife, they make a pact, a covenant, ahd. وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Fulfill the promise, the covenant. For this a promise is going to be called upon on the day of judgment. God is going to say, listen, you guys, on this year, on this month, you got married. Why did you get married? What did you say to her? What did she say to you when you got married? Didn't you promise each other to be loyal to each other, for each other, to support each other, to be a good father, good mother, good husband, good wife? Didn't you say these things? Where are these things? Why did you destroy your family? Why did you destroy your children? Why didn't you fulfill the promise you made? People take marriage lightly. Marriage is a covenant between two souls, two human souls, taking God as a witness. God is witnessing this relationship, this marriage, this connection. Why did you destroy it? Why you didn't live up to your responsibility? God says, I know life is challenging, I know life is difficult, but you did not have patience. You didn't have patience. You put yourself before your family. And this is the result. Families are destroyed and shattered. And we make covenant with our neighbors, with our friends, with our co-workers, with your boss, with your teacher. Life is about covenant. Life is about pacts that we make with others. Even if this contract is so small. You know, when you hire a taxi in some countries, you tell him how much. He says, let's say this $10, let's say. When he gets you there, he says, no, $15, you know. After 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he asks for more. He breaks the promise. This is also breaking the promise. Whether the promise is a small or big, whether it is multi-million dollars or $10. We have to be true. True to the covenant you make. You can't change your mind with your customers. When you have customers When those customers, whether they are, whatever they are, patients or others, you have to remain true. Remain true, and you do your job and you fulfill the promise. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was an example, a good example of fulfilling the promise. Whenever he signed a contract with any person in Quraysh or with any tribe, with his adversaries, with his enemies, he would respect the pact. People come to him and they say, let's change it, we have more people joining us, more weapon, more money. He says, no, I signed this contract. I can't change my mind. I have to remain true. Even though those are my enemies, I have to respect the promise. وَلَا تَنْقُضُ الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. Don't break the oath, the promise, the covenant, after you solemnly signed it and affirmed it. Don't break it. Don't change your mind. Even if you lose. Some people say, but I didn't think about it in the beginning. When I did the calculation, I did not know that the cost is going to go up. So what? This is your problem. You know how many people are contractors? And they say, I'm going to renovate your house, I'm going to build this house. But later on, after a few months, they take the price up. They change their mind, breaking the oath. And that money that you get it when you break your oath and your promise has no blessings, has no barakah. You are not going to enjoy this money. Even if you get that money, you are not going to enjoy it. وَلَا تَنْقُضُ الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. So the worst thing is to break your promise. Any promise, whether you made a promise to a child who's 3 years old or a man who's 90 years old, don't break the promise. When it comes to marriage, to business, to commerce, to relationship, to friendship, to anything, remain true to the promise you made. Whether you make a promise to your father and mother or to someone who does not believe in God. He's an atheist. But he's a human being. He's a human being. Honor your promise. Honor it. Honor the covenant. وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا عَاهَدتُّمْ وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. God is telling the people who were with the Prophet, some of them they come and they make a covenant with the Prophet, that they're going to be on his side, but later on they change their mind. Why they change their mind? Because they see another tribe which is more powerful, it has more men, it has more army, more weapon, and wealthier, so they switch. They switch from the Prophet's side to the other sides. Because there are other people who are wealthier, they pay more, they have more men. So they switch their alliance. And this is what God said to them. Don't do that. And God would advise the early Muslims when they accept Islam that the first thing you must learn is to remain true. Even if you are a few. Don't look at your party, your group as being outnumbered by others. Sometimes you are outnumbered. This is a test from God. God is testing you. One of the most beautiful stories of fulfilling the promise happened before Islam, in fact. It happened in Al-Hira, Mamlakatul Hira. There was a kingdom of Al-Hira, which is in southern Iraq, near Kufa. During the time of the Manadhira. Manadhira were a dynasty who ruled that area. Nu'man ibn al-Mundhir was a Christian king. It happened during his lifetime. So this man, Nu'man, who was a king, he designated 2 days in the year. One day is Yawm al-Sa'd, the second day is Yawm al-Nahs. One day he designated as a day of happiness and joy and fortune, Sa'd. Another day during the year he designated as the day of ill-fate, ill-fated day, or misfortune, Nahs. So what he does is that when someone come to him, arrive into his kingdom, his city, on the day of happiness, he will be so generous to him. He will give him money, everything he asks for. Anything that person asks for, he will grant him on the day of happiness. But if he arrives on the day of Nahs, the day of ill fate and misfortune and bad luck, he murders him. He murders him. He created this law. And he's a king, and the kings, they create the law. They make the law. Nobody can challenge them. So one day he went into hunting outside his city with his party, with his group. And he lost the way. He was left behind. ضل طريقه. He lost his way. And he was separated from his guards and his bodyguards and his ministers and his buddies and his friends. He could not see them. They could not see him. He walked to a tent that was pitched by a Bedouin in the desert, the nomads. And the Bedouin does not know him. He doesn't know that this is the king of this kingdom. At that time, there are no social media, alhamdulillah, no Instagram, so no pictures. Nobody knows who's who. So he said to him, I lost my way. Can you host me? The man was so generous. He said, of course, you stay here. He stayed with him for 3 days. He fed him, he took care of him. After 3 days, his party and his government, they were searching the desert. They found him after 3 days. So when they found him, the Bedouin realized that this is the king. The king was in his tent for 3 days. So the king said to this man, he said to him, listen, I am the king in Al-Hira, and I want you to come to my kingdom, to my palace, so I can honor you. I'm not carrying now cash or gold or silver. So come to me and I will give you whatever you ask for, because you saved my life. You saved the life of the king. The man said, okay, I will come. After a few years, the man ran out of money. So he remembered that the king promised him to give him money. So he decided to go. And he walked to Hira. What day he arrived? On the day of bad luck. He arrived on that day. Nobody would go to that. On that day, nobody travels to that city. Nobody. People know the rules. This man did not know the rule. He's a stranger. So when he arrived, the king said to him, I'm so sorry. I acknowledge what you did for me. You saved my life. And I should give you anything you ask for. But I have rules. And these rules apply to my son. Even if my son arrives on this day, I have to murder him. No exception. This is the reality. This is the truth. And today you arrived on a bad day. So we have to murder you. The man said, are you serious? I saved your life. You murder me? He said, yeah, rules are rules. So when they prepared the sword and the gathering to see him being beheaded, this Bedouin turned to the king. He said to him, listen, can you spare me some time? I left my family without food, without provision. I promised them that I am going to come back to you rich. So they are waiting. I have kids, little kids waiting for me. So give me some time. Give me 1 year. I'll go back to my place in the desert. I'll take care of my family. At least 1 year. I prepare them for my departure. And then I'll come back. The king says, who's going to guarantee that you come back? When you leave, you are going to run away. So this man turned left and right. He looked at the people who gathered there. He said, anyone would, sponsor me, bail me out? Nobody answered. Just before the Sayyaf is the, Sayyaf is Sayyaf, the one who carries the sword and executes. We have in the Philippines, we have Abu Sayyaf, huh? Alhamdulillah, we have many Abu Sayyaf and Sayyaf in the Muslim world. Plenty, alhamdulillah. They are ready to carry the sword and behead the innocent. So once, before the Sayyaf, the swordman was about to separate his head, one man shouted, he said, "Your Majesty, I am ready. I am ready to sponsor him and bail him out. And I guarantee that he comes after 1 year." The king turned to this man. He said, "Listen, if this Bedouin does not come back, I'm going to murder you. There is no joke here. This is serious." He said, "Yeah, I'm ready." So the man left. The Bedouin left. People were waiting for him. He'll come back after a few months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10, 11, 12, until the last day. The king turned to this man. He said to his bodyguards, "Bring this man. We have to execute him today." They were ready to execute in the desert. The whole town was there to witness, to enjoy this celebration. And before sunset, the king said, "Let's wait until sunset of this day. Once the sun sets, this guy is going to be executed." Just minutes before sunset, they saw a rider riding a horse, carrying so fast. They said, let's wait to see who that man is. When he arrived, they recognized him. This is the man, this is the Bedouin. So the king was really astonished and shocked. The man arrived. He said, "Here I am." The king said to him, "Are you crazy? You escaped death. You have family, you have children. Are you crazy? You are coming back? Why are you coming back? What made you to come back again? You don't know I'm going to murder you?" He said, "Yes, I know. But I don't want people to say that no one on earth fulfills his promise. At least there is one person like me who fulfills the promise." The king turned to this man who sponsored him and protected him and bailed him out. He said, "Do you know him before? Is he your friend?" He said, "No, he's not my friend. I don't even know his name. I don't know his address." He said, "But how? Are you crazy? You bail out someone that you don't know? What made you do that?" This man answered, he said, "So people do not say that the ihsan is gone forever. At least there is one person who can practice ihsan." This is a true story. Fulfill the promise. When you fulfill your promise, you encourage others. When you don't honor the promise, you also encourage others to do so. It's a big responsibility. This is deen. Deen, religion, is to fulfill the promise. People think mistakenly that deen is nothing but salat and siyam. Always, 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 always. When they want to describe someone as practicing person, what do they say? What do they say? Yusalli and yusum. He prays and he fasts. But how about fulfilling the promise? How about being honest? How about speaking the truth? How about being kind to his family, to his parents? They don't mention these things. God says, fulfill the promise. وَأَوْفُوا بِالْعَهْدِ. Fulfill the covenant. Fulfill the covenant. إِنَّ الْعَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْئُولًا. Verily, this ahd that you made, God is going to ask you about it on the day of judgment. You can't get away with it. How many times we promise and we forget? Not only forget, sometimes we deny. We deny that I gave you this promise. They deny that he took money from him. They deny his goodness. They keep denying, thinking that they can get away with it. You can get away here in this little fast life here, small life. But you can't get away there. On the day of judgment, no one can get away. وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون. Number 92, and we conclude, ولا تكونوا. This is a metaphor in the Quran, a beautiful metaphor, beautiful proverb in the Quran. ولا تكونوا كالتي نقضت غزلها من بعد قوة أنكاثا. Do not be like that lady. There was a lady in Mecca, very famous. What she does every morning with her maids, with her servants, with her friends, they sit at home and then they start weaving strands of yarn together to form a strong thread. They spend hours and hours and hours from early morning, only to unravel it. At the end of the day, they destroy everything they created. They unravel it at the end of the day. وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا وَلَا تَكُونُوا. Don't be like that lady who unravels her yarn, breaking it after it had been strong. She was famous in Mecca. Why do you do this? Why do you waste your time and your money? Why do you create something at the beginning of the day and then you destroy it at the end of the day? Why? Some people do the same. They don't create physical things. They create moral things, spiritual things, and then they destroy them. One of the moral things you do is your family. They create a family, they begin a family, they have kids, and then at the end they destroy their families and their kids. They unravel everything they built. God says, don't do that. Don't. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّتِي نَقَضَتْ غَزْلَهَا مِنْ بَعْدِ قُوَّةٍ أَنْكَاثًا. After she works hard, she destroys all the work that she does. And we do this every single day with our friends. We foster a friendship with some people, with some families for so many years. And this friendship has to grow and develops. But then we come and we destroy this friendship, this relationship. We destroy it for something which is not worth it. It's not worth it. وَقَدْ تَتَّخِذُونَ أَيْمَانَكُمْ دَخَلًا بَيْنَكُمْ. Again, God says, by taking your oaths to practice deception among yourselves. Today, the oath has become very cheap. Very cheap. First of all, my friends, teach yourself and your kids not to take any oath. Teach your son not to say, Wallah al-Ali al-Azim al-Subhana Rabbi. You don't have to. Speak the truth. Why do you have to say, Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Hazrat Abbas, Madi, Fulan, Imam Reza, why? There is no need for that. There is no need to bring God here and the prophets and the Quran and the... Say what you want to say. If people are willing to believe you, they believe you without oath. And if people do not believe you, you are a liar. If you bring God himself and say, I swear by this God, they don't believe you. Because you are a liar. You are dishonest. You lied in the past. So the oath is not going to help you. It's not going to help you. Leave the qasam aside. There is no need for qasam and for oath. There is no need. Don't. Some people in some countries, they say, alayya bit-talaq. I make a promise or covenant, I divorce my wife. This is serious. This is not a joke. Believe me. Ask people here, they tell you. I divorce my wife if I am telling lies. And he's telling lies. Because he wants to divorce his wife. He wants an excuse for that. Alayya bit-talaq ifla. This and that. No need. No, if you want to divorce, go and divorce. So God says, do not take your oaths to practice deception. Deception. You know, in many markets, in Muslim countries, I'm not speaking about specific country, a trader, a shopkeeper, the seller, when he wants to sell his goods, what does he say? He uses the oath, always the oath. They take the oath very lightly. To deceive, they use the oath. تتخذون أيمانكم دخلا بينكم أن تكون أمة هي أربى من أمة. Those people who made covenant with the Prophet, they went to other larger and wealthier tribes and they broke their oath with the Prophet. إنما يبلوكم الله به. God is testing you. God is testing you. وَلَيُبَيِّنَنَّ لَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And definitely God is going to clarify for you on the day of judgment مَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. Things that you differ upon, God is going to tell you and clarify these things on that day. Mu'mineen, inshallah, on Saturday we are celebrating the milad of our, on Saturday, we are celebrating the milad of our Imam, Al-Imam Al-Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam, at 7 p.m. here. So do your salat, please, at home. Salat is about 6 p.m., 6:10. Do your salat at home. And the celebration begins here at 7 p.m. inshallah ta'ala. And many of our young leaders are going to speak, inshallah. And remember, next Thursday, because of the time change, next Thursday, Dua Kumail is going to be at 7 p.m. and Salat Maghrib and Isha, both are going to be at 7:25 p.m. Maghrib and Isha, both, inshallah. And after that, the Quranic lesson. And Salatul Jum'ah tomorrow is at 12, tomorrow. But next Friday, after that, Friday prayers is going to be at 1 p.m. inshallah. And the month of Ramadan begins March 23rd, inshallah, on Thursday. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're going to have iftar here. Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 3 days a week, we're going to have iftar. And we ask you to enjoy the 4 days, which are Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays with their families and friends, inshallah. Enjoy your soup, your delicious food at home. Chalo kebab, anything, enjoy. But 3 days, come here for the iftar. Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we have communal iftar. We break the fast together in this masjid. But the other 4 days, enjoy the iftar, but come to the lecture, by the way. Yeah, we have lecture. Lectures begin at 9 p.m. every night. During Ramadan, the lecture begins at 9, inshallah, here. The masjid is open throughout the whole month, and we need a sponsorship for the iftar. If you want to sponsor the iftar, please speak to Hajj Samir Amiri. Allahumma aghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat tabi' Allahumma baynana wa baynahum bil khayrat. إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك غافر الخطيئات إنك ماحي السيئات وجاعلها حسنات إنك على كل شيء قدير. Please join me in reciting Surah Al-Fatiha for the soul of Hajj Yusuf Khurasani and Hajj Muhammad Chando إلى أرواحهم الفاتحة مع